Meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission together, and if the administrator would call the roll.
Anderson.
Here.
Bagelman.
Here.
Dane.
Here.
Frankie. Huser. Olson. Payne.
Here.
Solheim.
Here.
Wilson.
Okay, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Before we entertain the motion, if you direct your attention to agenda item B, that's at the bottom of the page of the agenda, beginning with number 1, public hearing, and then look at the text block, line 6, that begins with the word commercial. It then reads, following public notice through mailings to those within 250 feet and posting in the local newspaper at least 1 week in advance. I'd like you to change 1 week to 2 weeks. That, in fact, is what happened, and that's what we agreed upon as a procedure at our last meeting. So if you would welcome that change to the agenda. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move that the agenda be approved as noted with the correction.
Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the ayes have it. The agenda is approved as adjusted. Item number 2, approval of the, item number 3, sorry, approval of the previous minutes. There is a minor error in the paragraph that indicates who the members that were absent. We have a new member, and they're the second person listed, and their name is chairperson.
Oh, yeah.
So we just need to delete that, Ben. I don't know if the record needs to say anything, but just to get it corrected, so
Sure.
that's done. Unless any of you feel we ought to be formal about it. Okay.
Maybe.
So, do I hear a motion for the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any other changes, corrections, additions? Those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion is carried. Okay, let's go then to communications. Ben?
We will have a Board of Adjustment meeting on Monday night. We have 2 cases. The first one is for a new propane storage tank at 3800 East Bremer Avenue. We have an M2 zone property. Setbacks call for a 200 feet setback, as our current ordinance states. So they're asking for relief of that. And then also at 350 First Ave Northwest, they're asking for a parking variance for the proposed uses out of there. So the board will hear that formally for consideration and render a decision on that.
Okay. Ben, is this appeal not premature, given the trial period conditions that were extended by the Planning and Zoning Commission earlier this year for this particular property?
Well, I'm not, to be completely honest and frank, I'm not sure. I am aware that I have communicated with the applicant in that case, and the applicant did come forth to the Planning and Zoning Commission previously for the identified uses, which he's been approved for on a trial basis. The 2 uses are the Gym 24 and a wrestling camp use. So I think what he's asking for is to say, if any other use comes up, he may want to have that door of opportunity available, and frankly not have to come to the P&Z Commission, for example, for the discussion about parking, if the Board of Adjustment can rule in favor of him on the parking component of things. So having said that too, the P&Z Commission can also have a say in that. So in other words, it's to be determined.
When I read that, it seemed like it went against what all of our recommendations and concerns were for rezoning of the property.
Correct.
So it seemed
Yep. So I did submit the minutes from January, February, and March to the Board of Adjustment members from the P&Z Commission so that they can see the breadth of discussion on that and to see specifically what was stated on that, what was recommended by a P&Z Commission. So they'll have that for consideration as well.
Any other comments on the Board of Adjustment meeting?
Is it possible for the chair to attend that meeting?
I could be there.
I would encourage it.
I could be there.
The minutes are great, but minutes don't do justice always to the full discussion and reasons for. So I'd encourage you to be there.
Yeah, we can do that.
I would appreciate that. I'll be there also, as I'm a liaison on that.
That's on the 8th. Okay, that's good. Any other comments? Ben, any other communications?
No, we have the Gentleman on the Road tour coming your way soon. I know I think, well, tonight, I believe they had a discussion at 6:30 at the library. It's probably still going on. I know they had a meeting here with downtown business owners too, discussing the lane closures on Bremer Avenue. They're gonna direct traffic around. The Gentlemen of the Road have asked permission to have the city barricade the street, Bremer Avenue, and the Iowa DOT, and they're going to divert traffic for the festival or music stage on Bremer Avenue downtown. So that'll be Friday night through Saturday. I have no idea on the numbers they're anticipating, but I've heard upwards 10 to 30,000, somewhere in that range. I don't know what we'll see.
We're sitting
but-
closer, there's fewer than 10,000 tickets that have been sold.
Is that the
Sitting
case?
closer
Okay.
to expecting maybe 12 to 15,000, including the downtown activities.
Okay.
They haven't released, I don't believe, the full entertainment schedule for downtown, but that actually starts Thursday evening. And I
Thursday.
believe the closure starts Wednesday,
Is that what was discussed? Okay.
because they'll be putting up a large stage right on Bremer Avenue, plus fencing between the buildings in different areas. I believe it's Wednesday is when the closure starts.
What are the sites or locations of the various venues?
From my understanding, there's really two. The main area will be down at the Wartburg Soccer Complex area, the lacrosse fields. And then there's a large camping area in a field that has hay that's been mowed, I believe, the first time now.
That'd be to the north, right?
To the north. Yep, so almost all of the festivities take place down at the Wartburg campus area.
So I had heard that it was going to be at the fairgrounds?
No, there's nothing at the fairgrounds.
Performances, nothing at all?
Nothing at the fairgrounds that, at least I've been aware of from a public safety perspective. We haven't been planning for activities there. Everything else will be downtown, and so they're opposite events. So when downtown is open, the primary venue's closed, and they flop back and forth for that. There is a site through the chamber that has a lot of good information out there, and they did upload the presentation that's taking place right now. They did upload that information, which details all of the lane closures, how to volunteer, how to get tickets, and a variety of information that way.
Thank you.
So again, that'll be the closures would probably be June 17 through June 21. And then the performances, I understand, are June 19th, that's the Friday evening, and then June 20, all day Saturday.
Right. Actually, Thursday evening starting about 5 o'clock.
Thursday
Starts
evening too.
downtown.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's kind of a pre-festival warm-up, I guess. Camping opens at noon on Thursday.
Anything else? Now let's move to item B, public hearings. Item 1, public hearing on rezoning request from R4 to C3 for 115 First Avenue Northeast. Larry and Janine Steinbrunn, is that correct, sir? Okay. Of Dunkerton, Iowa, are requesting the rezoning of 115 First Avenue Northeast, located on the northeast corner of First Street Northeast and First Avenue Northeast. The request is to change the zoning designation from R4 to C3 to allow for the potential expanded commercial business uses on the subject property. Comprehensive land use map designates the property as commercial. Following public notice through mailings to those within 250 feet and posting in the local newspaper at least 1 week in advance, and that is changed to read 2 weeks.
From henceforth.
Yeah, thank you. The commission will consider all public comment prior to recommending action to the city council. So, before we open the public meeting, Ben, do you have anything that you want to bring forward?
I'll just state that this property, just for location, it's actually adjacent and across the parking lot from City Hall here. It's It's on the north side of First Avenue. It's in a block that's zoned R4. If you look at the zoning map, and then if you see the zoning map, you also note directly to the south, there's C3 zoned properties. And so basically, as it stands today, any professional service establishment would be permitted. And again, those are involving the advising and counseling of clients in confidence concerning personal, financial, or medical affairs. So your ability to do most anything else is very, very limited to just those types of applications. So your general retail, or let's say if you have general contracting, or you're just trying to invite the public in to drive by and stop in for a visit, that technically wouldn't be allowed. And so as staff, I think this is in response to kind of the desire to open it up for a couple more opportunities out of there, whatever they may be, in line with what's already permitted in the central business district, known as our C3 downtown area.
Mr. Steinbrun, if you'd like to come up, please state your name and speak into the microphone. We do have a home audience that likes to be apprised of
You're
these
on
things.
Okay. Yeah, Larry Steinbrown from Dunkerton, and we're looking at purchasing this building, based on it being zoned properly for our intended use, which would be a barber, styling salon, aesthetics, and possibly massage therapy. And I also own a construction consulting company, and I may put an office in there for that also. And we would, possibly be leasing space also to other stylists or estheticians, massage therapists possibly. We're not really sure right now.
Why don't you stay for just a moment? I'm going to close the public hearing, and let's bring it here with the commission. Questions, comments you may have, or information that you might like from Mr. Steinbrun.
Actually, from my perspective, this makes sense. I was kind of surprised it wasn't already commercial, given the location, because it's kind of surrounded already by commercial. So,
I guess, Ben, my only question or thought, we've resisted the expansion of C3 in the form of an amoeba. And why C3, why not C1?
I think the thought is it generally would fall in line with the development to the south, which is zoned as C3. It'd be adjacent to it. And this is a property that frankly doesn't have any off-street parking. It's just a smaller structure. I'll call it a little smaller structure that the structure is basically the lot, and there's no adjacent opportunity for parking at all. There's a public parking lot to the south. So as staff, Larry and I talked a little bit, and it was kind of, my thought was, well, you have a public parking lot access directly to the south on the other side of the street. I think some of this on-street parking in this area is underutilized. We have a rental property, and maybe we have owner-occupied properties as well to the east here. But a lot of those properties already have their off-street and garage parking. So I think this is a situation where they don't have literally any opportunity at all for off-street. So the lot is the building, and I think it's more in line with the C3 zoning than an R4. And to demand, off-street parking with this case, I think I don't think it's reasonable really to expect that. And to frankly maybe continue the uses that, expanded uses that might be similar to our definition of professional service establishment, but by the book, some of those may not meet this standard. So I think it's wise to open it up a little bit more to more of an office type building situation, which I think is kind of what you're hearing in addition to the beauty component of the styling of hair and things like that.
Is the grass, the vacant lot behind it, part of that, or it stops at pretty much at
Yeah.
the?
So that is city owned. My hunch is that was a buyout lot from years ago. The city has bought in that property.
Yeah, 'cause
That grassy area is right over here. The city owns those.
Yeah, the lot itself is 66 by 66. The building is 26 by 40, and I think there's 10 or 16 feet off the back side of the building. And then it comes out almost to the parking lot, you know, on the east side of the city hall.
That was included in the property when this was built. It was an elevator feed mill.
Was it?
Ben, I may have missed it. Did we have any response to the communication we had with the neighboring properties?
No, we have not.
Okay. How about other questions?
I don't know, it seems appropriate to me. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be used the way you described.
I agree.
It takes emotion.
I will find it. I will move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the rezoning request from R4 to C3 for the area described to the city council.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would ask the commission to consider, does this send a message, one way or another, about the expansion of the C3, Central Business District, and the ability to zone that way in order to avoid off-street parking requirements? This particular lot gives me no concern. That's not our issue. But there are other lots out there that I think we should think about, and goes in front of Board of Adjustments, in fact. So are we concerned about a message that we might be sending, even though I think this is not at all applicable in this particular case?
Yeah, I don't think it's applicable in this case.
Given the tight property constraints and no real option, I'm not sure that it would apply to other properties.
You're thinking it should be a variance instead of a,
I'm wondering. At least put it out there so we can digest it.
Does it do enough that we have the discussion captured in our minutes so that when these things come up, and they will come up again, that we have at least a benchmark?
I guess this area feels like, I know it's the only C3 that would be in that block, but if you look at the block next to us, to it, half of that block is C3. So it's, I don't know.
I think the property looks like an island unto itself, so.
It seems like it makes a better C3 property than it makes a residential property, given the parking lot and city hall and the parking across the street and the general feel of it.
I don't disagree with that fact, but I'm wondering maybe it ought to be C1 and make an exception to the off-street parking requirement. Just food for thought.
Just
Yeah.
because C1 would require on-site parking.
But give him a variance on it.
Is it odd, though, to have just a C1 where there's no other C1s around it? So everything around it is either R4 or C3, and then we have a standalone C1. I definitely understand where you're going, that we don't want to have it piece through there, but there aren't any other C1s, at least in the short view that we have.
yeah, I think with the off-street, with the public, City Waverly parking across the street and parking there, you know, I can see where you're headed with that, Rich, but I think we almost have to evaluate, you know, if it comes up again somewhere else, you know, is there parking available? I mean, I think, yeah, you have a good point there, but I think we're okay. That's just my opinion, I think.
If that's the way most people are feeling, I'm comfortable with it, but I wanted to put it out there to make us think through just in case.
The only
some
difference would be
bites us later.
precedent versus,
Yeah.
I mean, from all practical points of view, there wouldn't be any actual difference. Just the parking piece and precedent.
But I
You
think
still
given
have to use
this,
practicality too, you know.
yeah, I
so.
think you have to put a common sense spin on it.
So
But
if
yeah,
it
we're-
ever changed hands, do they have to get the variance again?
No, so what they're asking for is kind of the menu of options afforded in a C3 district, and if you look at that zoning code section, it's more liberal with your retail service, type applications versus the R4. Again, you're kind of,
I understand that. It's
Yeah,
a
so-
question of the C1 versus C3.
so C1 is actually geared, and I just pulled that up, it's actually more intended to provide convenience facilities adjacent to predominantly residential areas to serve the residences. So it would permit drugstores, variety stores, grocery and delicatessens, laundrettes, service stations, any use permitted in the R4 and childcare facilities. So in other words, it's geared specifically kind of to serve the immediate neighborhood versus, like a state, kind of a contracting business or a beautician or things of that nature, where generally you're going to make an appointment and probably drive from off-site at any distance or walk there. But the point is, that's kind of the nature of the C3 request and things of that nature too. A lot of the storefronts you see in our current downtown would be in line with those.
Anything else?
Yeah.
I'll call a question.
Okay. I think we can do this just a voice vote. Are you okay with that? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and it's a unanimous decision of the commission.
Thank you.
This will be forwarded to the city council as a recommendation from the commission to them, and will be heard probably,
We put this on for June 15, would be the first of the 3 required readings for ordinance. So then it'll be 1 reading in June and June 15, and then the first and third Monday in July.
Yeah, so about 6 weeks.
Right. Yep.
Oh,
You can call me or I can reach out to you and finalize things too.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one small item of regular business. You have before you a roster of the commission, and you'll see that there were 3 members reappointed in May to serve from the June meeting through the May meeting of next year. 2 of those persons appointed have a term of 2020, and one of them has a term for 2018. The reason for this is about 1.5 years ago, the mayor and the city administrator and myself, we got together and we realized that over time, somehow we had jumbled up the terms to a place where we had a couple of instances where we could have 3 people that would all be eligible to go off at the same time. My opinion was that that would be not a good thing for a commission of this type. I mean, I think about how long I'm still learning. And I think most of you who serve on a commission like this realize that it's an ongoing process. The mayor agreed, and so I was appointed last year, instead of to a 5-year term, to a 2-year term, which will go through 2016, and then be eligible for another full term. But that was to smooth that piece of it out. And we addressed this last piece with the most recent set of appointments that were done right after the 1st of May. So that's the reason you're seeing it differently. If you have changes or additions or things that you want on this, get in touch with Ben. Ben will have the master copy of this, and he'll send it out to all of us, and we can pick it up from there. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would note that the home number for me should just be crossed out. We don't use that as well.
Thank you.
Home line anymore.
Mine also.
Mine as well.
I just don't answer mine.
So take it out.
And are the email addresses on here correct? Okay, I think so, because I think those ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure they're getting through.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Otherwise.
Thank you. Is there any other regular business? Any old business? Any new business?
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned.
Apologize.